All right, so we are at the bicep area. So for the bicep area, I ended up using nine squares, and for this, you're gonna have to trim off a little section here all the way down. So just kind of line it up to the armature, where you can make a nice wrap. Find out where that joint is, and then that's where you're going to want to cut it so that it's not going to interfere when it's bending. So as usual, you want to tape it down to the armature first. Just find out where that edge is so that way it wraps evenly. And then just start wrapping. So these two arms are 13 inches in diameter for this particular one. So as far as the biceps go, it's up to you whether you think that you'll end up needing to build up this area, where you typically have a little bit more, meat. But I think once you put your shirt costume on it, I think it's gonna look fine the way it is. So now we're on to the forearm. So what you're going to use for the forearm is the remaining amount that was used on the thighs. So again, you're going to want to start your wrap closer to the elbow joint, because then it'll taper down to the wrist area. So when you set this up, you want to make sure that you got the straight part close to the elbow, because then that will always stay the thickest. So once again, just got to tape it down to the armature here. Line it up right to the edge, you'll be able to feel it, secure it down, and then you can start wrapping it. So I'm just going to compare both arms to see where they're at. So it's 13 inches at the thickest, and this was 11. So I'm gonna back this off a little bit then. So then what I did in this area, I just kind of built it up a little bit, you know, to have some sort of meat right there. So you can just find some scrap foam that you've had laying around from the other. So I just try to find, you know, pieces that would fit in there well. And there you have it. There's your forearm. So now we're on to the fingers. So all we're going to do is take little bits and pieces of the remaining foam that we have left over, just kind of eye up how long the finger is and tear off a piece, and then you can just start wrapping that foam, kind of wrap it around there. You can just wrap this masking tape around it. And find if you bend the other fingers back that you're not using, then you can kind of wrap it around a little bit easier. So just like that. So you can make the fingers as thick as you want, but you know, typically you're gonna have some sort of glove on it, which will, you know, take up some extra space. So you can kind of get an idea, you know, how you want it. You can obviously, you know, adjust how thick these are to the spacing, but the overall feel of it I think is good. So I'll continue on with these and I'll show you what we got here. All right, and so there's the hand all done. Depending on the gloves that you're going to be putting on it, I would actually put masking tape right here, just to kind of blend in with the fingers, so it's not just like this black block. So just kind of wrap it around to hide some of that. So there you have it. There's your armature all done. So because there's a gap from the thigh area to the calf shin area, when you straighten out the leg, sometimes I'm noticing that the pants are kind of bunching up in this area. So I'm taking some of this polyfoam or polyfill, and I'm just putting a piece of masking tape around here so that it secures it in, and that way you can kind of pull it out to get it to where, you know, it's going to kind of be semi-secure and kind of fill in some of that gap. So hopefully that will take care of that issue. And so now I added the bottom piece here and kind of pulled up and pulled down to kind of fill in some of the side here as well. Don't forget to also put some of this polyfill in the back joint of off the thigh and the calf. On the thigh area, I ended up taping right to the wood here, all along the top portion of that thigh, all the way down, and then connecting down into here as well. That way it'll kind of minimize some of the tendency of all the foam to kind of sag down. So hopefully that'll keep it in place. The other thing with the harness, these bolts right here, on the other side, you can feel these actually kind of wearing in on your body when wearing it. So I ended up duct taping right to the strap a bunch of layers of this remaining foam. If you have any extra, tape them all together and then duct tape them right onto the strap, and that'll give you some cushion so that it won't get so tiresome when you're wearing it. Now I'm getting the shoes on. Try to pull the socks up, a little ways away. I gotta creep them up a little bit more, but now I'm just kind of filling in some of the gaps in the shoes here with the same poly fill. I'm going to try to fill in a little bit more of this area, and then there's some in the back here that I'm going to push down. Try to fill in some of that gap, snug in the foot so the shoes don't come off. So I'm about to stuff the inside here with probably the polyfill, but before I did that, there's oftentimes a gap here between the belt and the button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take fishing line or whatever string, whatever you got, and actually I'm going to loop that around here and then tie it into this area, and that way it'll kind of stay snug. The belt will kind of help keep its form as well. So I think that'll work out good. So I finally got the inside of this stuffed, and how I did that, I ended up taking regular duct tape and sticking it right around in here, and then stuffed some of the fill underneath the tape, and then stuck it on right up in here. So it's just kind of holding it in place. And then same thing, I just kind of looped around some duct tape, pressed it on to the next piece of fabric or the other piece of tape, and then did the same thing. And it's just, it's not going to be a perfect system, I don't think, but it just kind of fills in some of the gaps just a little bit, so that it's not baggy. So once I put it on, I'll see how it looks. It might tweak it a little bit, but I think it might do the trick here. So for the torso, I've got my duct tape dummy here. Again, there's plenty of tutorials online that you guys can take a look at. One thing that I'm doing different with this compared to Quazilogical's tutorial, initially I had the neck coming out, and he ended up putting, some sort of mask over that area. For me, what I'm going to do, because I've got that styrofoam head, I'm actually going to be mounting it directly to here, because it's got a neck that's coming out already. So I just sawed that off. But to stuff this, I'm first going to trim up some of this because, you know, most of this is going to be close to my hips where it's going to blend in. So I'm just going to build up some of the shoulder area and in the back and call that good. So I ended up cutting the duct tape dummy. Just trimmed it right above the weight belt line, and ended up wadding, you know, a handful of the foam pieces here, and duct tape them on both sides, and then duct taped 2 there, 1 on top of the shoulder on the sides here. So here I am with the shoulders. So I ended up just cutting a couple sheets, stacking them up, and I actually duct taped each end, so then it's just a big pack. And I ended up duct taping to the back all the way down to the other side. I kind of left this part open because when I attach the head, I'm probably going to have to cut in to this area so that the head fits flush. So this is the back side of the duct tape dummy for the shirt. So the back was cut out here, and then I stuffed. I actually took double-sided tape and sealed it right about in here so that this part's a little bit thinner and you can tuck it into the pants. But ended up using the polyfill down in here and up in here to kind of fill out the chest when you're wearing it, and then I'm just duct taping it in to the shirt here. Alright, so now it's time to mount this particular costume's head, which is the clown. So what I am gonna do is I've bent this baling wire around the shoulder here and then twisted it up, and I'm gonna put JB weld and glue it, you know, so that it sets nice and hard there. And then I am going to push the foam head down into it so that it's, you know, going into the foam, and then I'm also gonna put JB weld in that area too so that it gets nice and solid. So I'm gonna do a total of 4 wires, and that should be stable enough to keep things secure. Here's the JB weld that I used. Steel reinforced epoxy. So I let the JB weld cure overnight and set up really nice. Actually pretty impressed in how hard it is. So I just pushed on the neck, and now, you know, I've pushed it right about down to here, and so now I just pulled it back up, and I'm gonna put in, you know, that JB weld on this area and push it down, and then, you know, kind of give it a good coat, similar to this, and hoping that will secure the headpiece on nice and tight. So So I wanted to quick show you how I attach the hands together here. I believe with the tutorial that Quazilogical had with the armature, he had another additional belt underneath his shirt, cut some holes in and had some snaps, and then snapped the hands together with the belt, which would work fine. I actually ended up just zip tying the hands together with these gloves, and that worked out well for me. You could, if you didn't have gloves, you could, do it in the fingers or whatever it is, but make sure that when you go out wherever you're going, bring some of the wire cutters or clippers, just because when you are getting back in the car, you're going to want to take the costume off. You can, if you're a passenger, you can get away with getting in and taking a short drive somewhere else, but any long distance you're going to want to take it off. So bring some extra zip ties and clippers, clip it off, and then you're good to go. So here's where I have the zip tie coming through, and then same thing at the other glove. Just pushed it through the leather and it works out good. I just want to show you, there's one thing when I did this that I wish I would have done differently, and I thought it would make sense to put the clip in the front here, where then the back part is all one solid piece. In reality, it would make a lot more sense to actually put that buckle in between the two shoulder harnesses. Put the buckle behind you so that when you're putting it on, you can actually just unclip it behind you, walk in, clip it, and then put the shoulder harness around you. Because right now I actually have to walk, step inside here and then kind of slip it on, which still works, but it's just kind of a pain. So put that buckle behind you and then clip it on once you step into it. Alright, so that wraps up the tutorial. I hope that this kind of shed some light on some of the mystery of putting everything together after the main armature is done, how to make things look a little bit more realistic. It was a lot of fun to build. It was a build that I've wanted to do for a very long time, and glad that I did. I had a lot of fun wearing it out in public. Went to some costume contests, and just getting the reaction from people, trying to figure out what it was, how it was put together, and a lot of good laughs out there as well. So it was a lot of fun. Thank you.